All right, folks, grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys presents Tales of the Trophies, Best of the Rest, Season 4. I'm Mike with EJ. How's it going, pal?
It's going well. It's going well. I bounced back on some of our pod picks this last week. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard to do any worse than Ofer.
Yep.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was a kind of a gut check for me, and I did pretty well, and there were a couple bets that I didn't make officially that also tracked and were capped correctly. So I'm feeling good. Got some ground to make up. It's hard to make up ground.
It is.
Once you get behind.
I'm glad you brought up because if you didn't, I was going to. It's about time that you want some bets there, Edmund. And I'm also glad that us being in the same mind length about the Hoosiers and the Vols paid off for us. That was good. So I'm very, very happy about that. Congratulations to you on getting some dubs. I'm holding it down here, trying to track down our leaders, Dave and Nathan, and fend off some competition from Chad and the legs. But we're doing what we can here. We're trying to do some good work.
Yeah, I already have a few games that kind of have my eye on pretty early. I think I texted you about as early as I possibly can about
Yes.
a bet because I knew the line would change and has already changed 3 points. So I'm
3
glad.
points.
Yeah, so I'm glad that I messaged you when I did.
I'm glad too. Good for you. I should have tried to get that bet in myself because I did like it. Also, I don't know if it's just because I'm not using I didn't bring my mic stand because I'm traveling. And I mean, I sit in a swivel chair at home, but this swivel chair has a lot more. It's a little bit more loosey goosey. I can really swivel around it. I'm liking it. I'm sorry if I'm giving you a little bit of a motion sickness right now, but I'm really enjoying the swivel I got going on. And I also just had a Buffalo Trace uh old fashioned downstairs. So I almost brought another one up for me, but my coworker wasn't having another. And I was like, well, not that he's a teetotaler or anything, but on the contrary, I had one because he was having one. But I was like, well, if I got to go upstairs and work, I should probably not take an old fashioned with me, or else this guy's gonna question the quality of my outputs. So,
It's fair.
well, though that being said, many people, do their best work with a little bit in the system. John Adams, I think it was, had a pint of hard cider for breakfast every morning. So, something to be said for that.
Did he know it was hard, or was it just like, just bad
Oh
apples, but
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
apples?
Back, it's a fair point, I guess. Back in the day, it's like, yeah, well, this,
It's just
this
apples.
apple juice
Apples
tastes a
just
little.
gave you that buzz.
This is just how apples work in the 1700s.
Um,
Oh,
so I wanted to just kind of prompt you. We're not quite far enough into like revisit all of our conference picks or our playoff picks yet. I feel like we still need to get maybe just even halfway through the regular season to really start to talk about that. But we are getting to a point where some of these we've already had some of these teams play each other in conference, like some of the ones that were perceived favorites. And we have another big one that we can get to that's happening this weekend. But so far, what has been your favorite playoff pick or conference final pick so far of
I
yours?
wasn't I wasn't prepared for this question, but I was thinking about it this weekend. But I wasn't thinking of my favorite. I was thinking of my least favorite.
That's the next question.
Uh okay, but my favorite, um, boy, oh boy. Um, Now I need to go back and think about this because who did I pick? Who was my
I mean,
who was my
I can go
who,
first.
did I? Yeah, you go first. Well, I need to double check to see who I picked to win the Big Ten because I went back and forth on that. But you go first, pal.
Yeah, so I have two that I've liked. One's pretty obvious, and the other one is not as obvious, but kind of playing out how I had thought it would play out. But the obvious one is the Volunteers, right? I really
Hmm.
thought
Yeah.
that Heupel needed a quarterback. Nico has turned into, it's still early, obviously, but they're looking pretty strong, and it's more so the defense that uh, it's just going to cause people's problems. All right, like that front
Hmm.
seven, unless you have a line full of a couple, NFL first, second round picks, like that front seven's enough to really wreck games. And then the offense, while it's still not a fine-tuned machine at all, right? I think they were pretty fortunate this last weekend against Oklahoma, because every time they had like Tennessee had a turnover, then Oklahoma, pooped all over themselves. So,
Help them out.
yeah, you just hate to see it. Yeah, so they still have a lot
Hate
to
to
work
see
through,
it.
but no, I've really liked that one. And then I will say, for a conference pick, this wasn't a playoff pick for me, but a conference. I'm kind of liking my Cyclones. I think Oklahoma State has
Oh,
proven already that they're not, they're just Jekyll and Hyde, and you can't really trust them.
hmm.
Kansas State got embarrassed at BYU, and now the two have to play each other. I
Yeah.
don't know. Iowa State got that really big win, the Cy Hawk Trophy win,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Now you're starting to see what I thought was going to be these chinks in the armor in Oklahoma State and Kansas State, and that's why I needed to find someone else. Utah is looking great, right? Like, even without Cam Rising,
Yeah.
they're looking to be in the driver's seat like we thought. But I'm kind of liking my
I
Cyclones.
hope Cam Rising plays. I hope they give him like more unlimited medical red shirts, and he's just like slinging the pig in Utah till in Salt Lake City till like he's 35.
Yeah,
That would be great.
I,
Um,
I I wouldn't be upset about it.
no, great pick, CJ. And I mean, I'm looking at both of our picks right now, going back and refreshing my memory. I mean, you're looking in pretty nice shape here, pal. Um, I would say probably better than I'm looking right now, especially I guess, when I look at picks that like I'm happy about, I mean, certainly Ohio State, right? Like I think despite a bit of a slow start to the year, I think that they are going to be very, very strong, and especially the way Oregon's looking. I think that that's something that is, perhaps we were a little too bullish on the Ducks, but still early in the season. And I know Tennessee and Texas and Ole Miss are like lighting it up right now, but something about Georgia, man, that they still, I know they squeaked past the Cats. I know that they dropped to number two and everything like that. We'll see what happens when they play Bama this week, but like, and Bama's also looking really good. I don't know. We'll see. It's gonna be an interesting road ahead for Georgia. This week will tell us everything we need to know, because if they can, how depending upon how they play against the Tide, I think any win, whether they crush them or whether they eke it out at the last minute, is massive for them going forward. I mean, that seems like a no duh type of thing, but like the way Bama played against Wisconsin, just scoring at will. I mean, they got guys on that offense that can do it. So this will be a test, I think, for Georgia's offense as much as their defense, because their defense can like hold in the big play potential, ring it in, and their offense can like kind of control the game, then it's gonna be big for them. That's really the key. I think more so their offense has to control the game. They have to basically be the Steelers. Their offense has to do enough to possess the ball and keep it away from Bama, and then their defense just has to stop the big play potential, because between Jam and Hollywood, they can just Ryan Williams, they can just score at any time. So
See, I'm on the opposite side of that. I feel like I'm feeling good about Georgia not making my playoff based on what I've seen so far. And obviously, this weekend is a big one. And it's not because I think they're bad. The problem was their three hardest games Okay. They had to play all four tough SEC schools this year.
Mm-hmm.
Three of them are on the road. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're barely squeaking past the Cats, there's I'm having a hard time seeing. I was having a hard time at the beginning of the year seeing them win more than one of the three on the road, and now I just feel even better about that. Like I have a hard time believing they're going to get two of in Tuscaloosa, in Austin, in Oxford, right?
But they can play joyless murder ball. And it's not like Clemson is like rumors of their demise may have been greatly exaggerated based on what we saw this weekend, or maybe NC State just really is that freaking bad. But like that was, I grant I did not watch the game, but when you have 55 points, uh, that's a statement right there. So I think that Georgia is still capable of playing joyless murder ball, which is the Nick Saban brand of offense that Kirby Smart has brought to Athens. And if they can do that at the right times, then I think that at the right times is key. I think that they're probably hanging to Kentucky reading some of their press clippings. There's not going to be any, they're going to have the game face on for Bama, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas.
Right, but that's four. I don't know. I told you at
It's
the
a
beginning
lot.
of the
It's a
year,
lot, and those are big offenses.
They didn't look anything like world beaters last year, and they didn't do anything this offseason beside hope for personal growth of these players to make me think it was going to be any different. And then meanwhile, Alabama looks pretty damn good. Even if Alabama didn't look good last year, they couldn't they didn't beat them on a neutral site. So now you're going into Tuscaloosa. Yeah. Like as much as Kirby Smart and co are having, news clippings looking at like I'm supposed to believe that Alabama is going to overlook Georgia, that Ole Miss is going to overlook Georgia, that Texas is going to overlook. I have a hard time believing they're going to get more than one. And even at this point, one's generous. Of the three on the road, I think they'll win the one in Athens against Tennessee. Because I don't think they're that much worse. You know what I mean? I don't think the gap is big enough. But that's the thing. I think if teams are equal, you have to be a step above a team to win on the road, right? So I don't know. I'm just having a hard time believing it, and I'm feeling better and better now. I think maybe two losses, even without going to a conference championship, because their Georgia's probably going to get them in anyway. So maybe the system's going to work in their benefit anyway.
Right.
But
right.
I'm feeling good that they are going to lose two games this year.
Yeah.
And not make the conference final. We'll see that.
I mean, to your point, they could lose 3 or 4. I mean, it's a lot of points they're coming out of those other programs right now. But
and they just haven't looked fantastic. Kentucky game aside, it's not like they were like immediately murdering the first two teams either. Like I don't know, they looked fine. Like
I thought they rolled Clemson.
Oh,
I mean, let's be honest about that. That was joyless murder ball. Yeah, but they rolled them.
But I guess like that's Clemson. That's a whole different story.
It's a whole different story.
But that gets to my dead. It's NC State, and in this particular case, I knew that was going to happen because they benched McCall. So then you threw a kid that is his first career start, like either a true freshman, redshirt freshman in the Death Valley. And we say this, Dabo is Dabo, but like they do have a game like this every year, right? Where they're like, getting shit on in the media, and then they're at home at night, or I guess this was at the day, but they're at home and then they embarrass someone. But now watch, they're going to lose to Virginia, right? Like it's just that's what's on the horizon. But I can say pretty confidently that, NC State, now that they are already 3 or 4 games in and have to change quarterbacks, like, I don't know. It's not looking good. Even though I thought they were going to lose to Tennessee, but the Clemson game and now this quarterback change, that's probably the one that's barring a miracle. It's not, that one's not looking too hot for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go a step further, Edmund, and I'll just say I screwed up the entire ACC. Like, I mean, I guess I was right that Clemson was like on the decline, but like, there's just like I was so confident in Virginia Tech. And I mean, they lost to the Commodores, who are having a decent year, but like, uh, come on, man. Like like what happened this weekend, just them. I didn't watch the game, but I was financially invested in the Trojans Wolverines outcome. But Josh was texting me. I was like, what's going on? And like at the very end, he's like, it was like watching Kenny Pickett with the Steelers. Like just they get the ball back and just a complete collapse on the offensive side. It's like, what happened to this team that had all this swagger? All these guys are coming back. Like, what's going on here? And then, Miami is just like, yeah, hey, you know what? We're real. And now, granted, when we get to the end of the season, I still am not believing them. Like, I'm still not willing to completely trust them. Like, they cannot date my daughter, right? Like, I don't trust them completely yet because when the lights are going to be shining the biggest and things really matter, they can still make mistakes. But they're playing. You know, there's no reason to believe that like the way they've handled business this year, I've been very impressed. And then Pitt out of
Yeah.
nowhere,
Yeah.
Eli Holstein is a guy like who saw. I mean, there. I advise people, and I'm Pittsburgh guy, and I advised our listeners, Whiskey and Whiskey Nation, to take under 4.5 wins, and these guys are 4-0. Like, what is going on in Pittsburgh right now? Like, it's fun, especially living there now. It's fun to see everyone all hyped up and everything, and Holstein has this team believing, but like this, they could, I I looked at the rest of their schedule and it's like, you know what? I think these guys have a real shot at least getting to the ACC championship game. So, yeah, I got that whole conference completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
Completely wrong.
I feel like I mean, I had the feeling that it was going to be a Miami, and then it was who knows, right? And
Hmm.
we both kind of took some shots at who knows, but I still feel pretty good about it. Like, I don't necessarily think that Clemson is all of a sudden just a shoe in. Like, I think even if Miami trips up, it's more so just like, who's going to beat them, right? Like, who's going to
Yeah.
actually win the ACC? Now,
The
do I
Pittsburgh
think
Panthers.
right? Like, I think I think we both maybe had the Canes winning a playoff game, but maybe not. I think we might have both had them in,
No.
but upset. So I think it tracks. Like, I think they're a very good team. I think they're capable of being a national content, like an actual champion. But I'm with you. I think the first year, I think, Ward's gonna have in a big moment a bad decision. I think Cristobal's proven that he's made bad decisions. So I think it'll eventually bite them, but I still don't think it's gonna bite them until the playoff, and then who's gonna meet them, in the ACC
Well,
championship game? No clue.
E-
No clue.
EJ, you had them playing Texas, I had them playing Ole Miss. So that I'll let you guess which team we picked to come out the winner of that one. But yeah, I mean, I also think that I assumed that the ACC would be like the worst conference by far, but like actually, if you take a look, like the ACC is actually doing pretty good against the Big 12. And like they just, SMU beat TCU this week. That probably shouldn't have happened. So Cal. I mean, I know that they just lost to Florida State. I mean, you even say I got Florida State wrong because I thought they'd be bad. I didn't think they'd be 1-3 bad. And then Cal out of nowhere, um, powered by the fuel of good, incredibly dank memes, is just. I mean, yes, they did go to Tallahassee and they lost, which is saying something when you lose to Florida State this year. But like, I I don't think that they're done winning football games. So,
Stanford's
um,
not an easy win anymore.
no, well, Stanford just went across the country and beat Syracuse. So, yeah, I mean, turns out ACC is frisky and fun, and the Big 12 stinks out loud, which is not. That's the exact opposite of what
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be this year.
Yep. For
So,
both of us.
yeah, yeah. So, but then, then there's the good old faithful reliable. That's why we just need it to be the SEC and the Big Ten, because we at least got those right for the most part.
Yeah.
So to this point, as we sit here, week 4, one third of the college football season behind us.
Yeah, I need to see Ohio State play someone with a pulse. They're obviously talented. That's not the problem.
Freddie Roach and the Thundering Herd don't get it done for you? Or?
No. And that wasn't exactly like a runaway thing from start to finish either. So
Yeah.
I have to see them actually play. Give me a Big Ten opponent, like even just give me that, right? Like at this point, they're playing the Michigan, the typical Michigan preseason, essentially. So
tough weekend for your Cornhuskers too, because not only did they lose. Well, I Dan Jurgle asked me about that game, and I said, well, I think Raiola's going to have a tough time with the secondary. So I lean Illinois. Turns out Brett Bielema is just all of a sudden a capable football coach again. And then also, I hate to tell you, but my 42-41 victory for my third season at Texas Tech was against your Cornhuskers. So they admittedly, my quarterback showed up to the game drunk. My quarterback being me, and threw 7 interceptions in the first half. So not a great start, but we came from behind and got it done. So.
Yeah, I mean, with the Cornhuskers, it was bound to happen. Raiola was bound to have a freshman game. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mean, the defense didn't exactly help them out, and they should have.
No.
And I'm going to guarantee you that Illinois is going to shit all over themselves at some point, too, which is annoying when you just have those teams all of a sudden show up. I'm based on what they've done in the past, I have a hard time believing that Brett Bielema and the Moo Moo are all of a sudden like a real team here. But the thing is, Nebraska
Homer
played
Simpson
horrible. Played horrible, and the dude missed a field goal at the end, right? Like, they still should have won the game. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So as shitty as it was, they were never going to cover. That's fine, but they should have won that game. So I'm not worried about them. Long term. Now the margin of error as far as like getting in the playoff, clearly they're going to have a much better season than they've had in the past. My playoff prediction is dwindling now because the margin of error is very thin. But I think it was one of those games. I will say I didn't think Illinois had that in them to go like a night game at Memorial Stadium. Altmaier's usually terrible, but we'll see. I would be cautious if I was any of you listeners about trusting Illinois in the future, because I would trust Rutgers and Maryland and Indiana.
That's
more than Illinois.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, I'm actually just looking at the schedule here. So Illinois does play Oregon, though I know that you're not. I mean, I agree, right? Like I think I would trust actually Rutgers and especially Indiana more. But like Ohio State plays the Cornhusker. Oh, they have an interesting stretch here. They go. So Ohio State next has Sparty. Mm-hmm. Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State, Purdue on November 9th, which Purdue can get a little frisky. Northwestern, then Indiana, then Michigan. So
where's the Indiana game at?
That is at the Shoe.
Oh, if they lucked out there, man.
They kind of dodged a bullet.
Signetti, like that's probably at the beginning of the year you're thinking hell yes, right? Now you're like, God damn it, right? Like, we can't spend too much time like preparing for Michigan and overlooking us.
And they, I mean, I still am not high on them this year, but like, I mean, they really clamped down against USC at the end of that game. So, well,
I trusted Lincoln Riley. He lost to a quarterback. He lost to a service academy. The quarterback threw for 37 yards. They had a bye week beforehand.
Yeah.
I trusted my gut there.
Oh, I took Michigan. I took Michigan that game. It got to the point where I was like, I really don't want to see Michigan win, but I do want to lose my bet, so I'm not going to change my rooting interest now. But yeah, that was I was actually that was had a really nice Saturday. I was laying there. Caden was on my son was on the floor, and Lexi was running around behind me, and Kara was up taking a shower. And the afternoon golden hour sun is streaming through the windows. I'm about to cash my bet. I'm just think to myself, I might have even said out loud, I'm like, God is in the air. Because it was a perfect day, too, like gorgeous day outside. And then 10 seconds later, Lexi smashes my empty beer can on my head and come back to reality of the chaos around me. But it was a nice moment there. It was a nice moment. Even the beer can was fine. It was all good. Then we get engaged in a little roughhousing. So
Yeah.
anyways, college
All
football,
right.
man.
We had like a really perfect segue, an accidental segue that then we quote completely veered off. ACC.
ACC, yes, yes,
We have
yes.
a great rivalry that we're talking about today, but most of you are not thinking about this rivalry in a football sense. So today we're talking about another Victory Bell game played between this one is played between the North Carolina Tar Heels and the Duke Blue Devils. So, how many other Victory Bells have we talked about, and who were the games between?
How many victory bells have we talked about?
Mhm.
Good question.
If you pull these out of your ass, oh boy.
Didn't we talk about the Cincinnati Bearcats have a victory bell trophy?
Very good. Do you remember who they
Yes.
played?
Uh
It's a school that has something to do with the Steelers, a very famous Steeler, a very famous
oh.
quarterback.
Miami of Ohio.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep.
got
So
that
that's
one.
one. That's one. What's the other one?
Um
Sorry, two. I'll give you that so that it's not like this huge. Do we have three? Do we have four? There were two.
there's so there's two total, or there's two more beyond Cincinnati, Miami of Ohio.
There are two total. There's one more left that we've already done.
USC and doesn't USC and UCLA have a victory bell?
They do. That is one that we are doing in the future.
Yes. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, and then okay, so we talked about another one.
Yes.
Shit.
Yeah. This one.
Hold on. Big Ten,
Yes.
Purdue.
No.
Damn it. Uh, am I in the right geographic area?
Not really. These are two teams
Shit.
you never would think have a rivalry.
Oh God. Okay.
One is a relatively newer member of the
Rutgers.
No, older than that.
Older than Rutgers. Maryland.
No, they came at the same time.
Damn it.
The next. Well, I guess it was probably two before then.
Oh God. Okay. Not Rutgers, not Maryland. Who else is in the
In this state.
not in this state? In Penn State has a victory bell?
Mhm.
Who do they have a victory bell with?
Exactly. That's why I said you would never think that
Minnesota?
yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was the Gophers. Okay. I had that in my head the whole time, but then I was thinking newer members. I don't think of Minnesota or
Penn
State
State,
as
right?
newer
Like,
members.
yeah, because they were independent for
Right,
years
right,
and then
right,
joined
right,
in the
right, right,
90s.
God, I forget they were independent. Okay. Penn State,
Yeah.
I had Minnesota in my head. I should have gone with that. Should have trusted my gut there.
So I think we talked about this offline. Maybe at the end of recording the last episode. But you do know what this trophy looks like, right?
No, I know what I thought we were doing USC, UCLA. I know what that one looks like because I am now the head coach at USC. So, well, but
Congrats.
I think I was gonna play that rivalry game because I like when I first got the game, I played a bunch of rivalries. I was gonna play that one, but I did not. but it shows a picture of the belt of the trophy. So
So I will say we've actually, believe it or not, because I looked back when I was doing this, because I knew we had done victory bells as well when I started to do this research. So I looked back and see what they looked like. So the Cincinnati and the Miami of Ohio one was just like a wooden base with a big bell on it, like an
Mhm.
actual nice bell, but it was just that, right? It was just the big bell and the base.
Yeah. Hmm.
So the governor's victory bell was more of like a bigger wooden trophy that had a smaller bell in the
Yeah.
middle of it, but it was more of like a full trophy, and the bell was more of like an accent piece to it.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, you said you already know what UCLA USC looks like. We'll talk about that at the end of the season. But what do you think this one looks like? So we actually have a variety of looks here, believe it or not.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I have the image. So I do remember the Penn State one because I feel like that top broke off or something like that at some point too during that telling of the trophy.
Yeah, I think so too.
Um, yeah, it did. I remember someone carrying it around and it was broken off. So I'm gonna say this one. We're talking Duke, we're talking UNC, talking Tobacco Road. If I think of UNC's campus, I think of, the very stately buildings and, kind of how they have like that Jefferson Memorial looking ass building. And Duke, I've been to that campus. It's very stone, um, stone built, old stone buildings. So, I'd like to say for this victory bell, I'm thinking something like, uh, like, uh, like 2 to 4 like tall white pillars on like a white base with like a bell, a silver bell at the top or golden bell at the top. That's what I'm thinking in my head when I think of Duke and UNC. Something that's, got some class to it.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll see if you're right.
Yeah, we
So,
will.
a little bit of the history of this rivalry. The first game played between these two schools was in 1888, with Trinity College winning the game 16-0. And that is what Duke went by until 1924. So this series has been renewed annually since 1922. So this is definitely one of the longer ones. I know when we were just doing this research, I want to say it's top three and longest like continuous annual rivalry in college football. North Carolina leads the series overall, 64 wins to 40 losses to 4 ties. So pretty relatively close. And at one point, this series was every bit as heated as the basketball rivalry between the two schools. But in the 40 years from 1970 to 2009, Duke only managed to win 7 times,
Hmm.
including a series record streak of 13 consecutive Carolina wins from 1990 to 2002. However, this rivalry has been revived in recent years as Duke has again become competitive in this rivalry, with both teams having won 5 games each through or from 2010 to 2019. But currently, UNC is on a 5 game winning streak. So,
Wonder how that's going to turn out this year. I guess I don't want to jump ahead to the future, but boy, oh boy, if you turned into UNC football this weekend, you saw, wow, that final score was not what I thought it was going to be.
no,
I turned that sucker
yeah,
off 70-50 JMU, but it was
yeah,
like 56-14 in the second quarter.
yeah.
So, yeah. Well, good for UNC putting up a fight.
So, before we get to the trophy, I wanted to talk a little bit more about this rivalry, specifically Ramses. I think that's how
Ramses?
Ramses,
Ramses? Well, if
Ramses,
it's
Ramses.
like if it's like the Greek god, it's Ramses.
Okay,
But
well, we'll go with that.
Ramesses, yeah, we can
Ramesses,
go with
Ramses,
Ramses.
Ramses. So Stephen Fletcher wrote a blog that was captured in the UNC archive library that tells two pretty cool stories. So let me tell you a different story before we get to the trophy.
Okay.
In 1924, UNC's head cheerleader at the time, Leonard Victor or Vic Huggins, decided that the Tar Heels needed a mascot. After all, Georgia had a bulldog, NC State had a wolf. And as Huggins explained later on in a 1962 interview, remembering back, recollecting, he remembered the 1922 football team and its powerful fullback, Jack Merritt. They called him the battering ram. So he thought to himself, what about a ram for a mascot?
Yeah, why not?
So Huggins approached the athletic director, Charlie Wolin, with his idea. And Wolin asked, naturally, how much would it cost? And Wolin, who was known for being frugal with athletic funds, wanted to, didn't really care about the idea. He was just like, but what's this going to cost us?
Bottom line this for me.
Yeah.
Right.
So when Huggins told him the cost would be $25, Wolin smiled and took the $25 from his personal wallet, handed it to Huggins, and said, go get us a real He-Man ram.
Nice. I like it.
So that's when Ramses the First arrived from Texas in time for the pep rally on Friday, November 7th, 1924. That night before the big game with the Virginia Military Institute. So on Saturday afternoon, November 8th, a homecoming crowd of about 5,000 people jammed into the field for the stadium for a big game. And Ramses ran onto the field with the players to the delight of the Tar Heel faithful. So why don't you scroll down and take a look at the original Ramses and his handler.
Who is his handler? Is this the cheerleader? I hope not.
No, so I'm realizing now that I made a mistake. I cut some text out of this, but no, that is not. That is, he has like a handler similar to like Uga and whatnot. So I can see if I can track down his name.
He looks like he escaped from a North Carolina correctional facility. Wow. I mean, so Ramses is certainly Ramses one is certainly a real He-Man of a ram. Looks good, looks regal, looks strong. His handler looks like Grizzly Adams and who is that basketball player, the European one, the super tall one from like the 90s who like looked real funky. Um, Anyways, this guy looks so like he has like a Bob Ross style fro, but like if Bob Ross lived in the wilderness for 14 years. This guy is a looker, and it looks like he's got some poor dental. I don't know, man. Was heroin a thing back in the 20s? Because this guy looks like he was doing plenty of it.
Wow. Yeah, so I can actually tell you more information. So I found the information now. So I do have a name. So this photo was taken by a man named Hugh Morton, and let's see, on the day, I'm trying to figure out which time period. So this might have been actually a later version of Ramses. So this was probably closer to Ramses let's see here, the 6th, it's looking like. And this guy's name, the handler, is GB Bushy Cook. So he went by Bushy Cook.
Of course he did. Yep. He looks like he took a bunch of GBs right before this picture. My God. I mean, folks, literally, it looks like Bob Ross just went into the woods for 14 years and came out with a ram. Like, this guy is that's gonna give me nightmares. I actually can't look at this picture. It looks like he's staring right through me.
Yeah.
I can't look at it anymore.
Okay. Well,
I'm gonna scroll up.
Why don't you go ahead and scroll down? Because we're gonna talk about the trophy. So why don't you tell the people?
Look at me. All right.
What this trophy looks like?
Yeah, I mean, not as slender and delicate as I had thought, but I kind of nailed it a little bit. So it's a it's a white, probably like cast iron painted white, um, I guess stand for the bell, right? But it's not like two like tall towers, everything like that with the small little bell. No, no, no. It's like I said, big cast iron painted white, um, stand, I guess, as it were, and a pretty sizable gold bell. And it looks like it is rolled onto the field. That like, I assume it's affixed to this. It's a cart that has UNC's logo and mascot paint on one side, and then the Duke logo and mascot paint on the other side, with the Carolina blue and the I don't know what Duke's blue is, Blue Devil blue on the other side. It is it's quite nice, quite handsome. Looks like you could potentially sit on this thing too.
Why don't you scroll down?
Oh yeah, the cheerleaders ride it out. The cheerleaders ride it out. Okay, that's awesome. So, oh wow. Okay, so it looks like, so like I said, what I'm seeing here is this one picture where it looks like half of it's paying for Duke, half of it's paying for UNC. But then in some pictures here of people riding it out onto the field, they paint it completely Duke blue or UNC blue. Perhaps they've stopped doing that. But yeah, we've got like it's a sizable cart, right? So, you've got two male cheerleaders pulling it with a handle, and then two female cheerleaders sitting on the seat. So it gives you a idea of how big this cart is because there's a seat, and then the one cheerleader is cranking the bell. So it's big enough to fit two cheerleaders on it. And then there's one after the game of a Duke football player sitting on it, and he's ringing the bell here too. So that's pretty cool, man. I like that. They ride this thing around the field. That's awesome.
So
They're
20,
like Marshawn Lynch,
yes,
ghost riding
that's
the whip.
but they just need it's not motorized,
Yeah,
they
right,
need some
right.
help.
Yeah.
So 24 years after UNC's head cheerleader Vic Huggins introduced Ramses to Tar Heels fans, another head cheerleader had another great idea. I mean, kudos to these Tar Heel
Oh,
head cheerleaders here. So
yeah.
in the late fall of 1948, head cheerleader Norman Spur thought that there should be some kind of traveling trophy for the winner of this annual football game. After all, Minnesota, Michigan had the Little Brown Jug, which is coming up this weekend. Now we might
Hmm.
see that a lot more frequently than we have in the past. Indiana and Purdue had that bucket, that
Yeah.
bucket that you despise. Everyone else just
I don't
admires it,
despise it. Yeah, I don't despise it. Just I actually appreciate the I appreciate it. That's
So
probably the best
Spur,
adjective.
along with the Duke cheerleader Loring Jones, came up with the idea for the victory bell. Jones himself designed the model frame, and Spur got an old railroad bell from the Southern Railway to be the bell.
It's a big bell.
And so, following Carolina's victory over Duke in 1948, the Tar Heels were awarded the bell. And I believe if you scroll down one more
Yep.
time, I think that was the original, like the first win.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, that logo's come a long way.
Yeah, yeah, that looks like almost like a Deadpool, like terrifying. Like if Deadpool wanted to be the Ram, right?
Yeah. 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 That's cool. Good for
Yeah.
them. Good for them taking the initiative.
So some of the traditions here, whenever as you kind of like, deduced from looking at the pictures. So whenever Carolina's been in possession of the bell, the cheerleaders wheel it out, ringing it during the pregame when Ramses is brought onto the field as well. So you kind of have the duo there, and it is displayed in front of the student section. That's where it sits. It is also tradition for the winner to paint the platform of the trophy to match their school colors. And in recent years, the spray paint job has been performed on the field. So after
Nice.
winning in 2004, North Carolina players immediately sprayed the platform Carolina blue, leaving large amounts of Carolina blue paint residue on the track of Duke Stadium.
I love that. That's great.
So is that by accident? I'm gonna guess not.
Yeah, yeah. The big Carolina blue cock was totally an incidental. Yeah.
So that's it. That's it for this trophy. I was pleasantly surprised, I think, when I had this
Yeah.
on the list of trophies. Wasn't super pumped because again, 90% of people think about Tobacco Road and the basketball rivalry, and they don't really ever think about football because even if were competitive with each other, they were never nationally competitive for the most part. So uh, when I saw the trophy, the history of it and everything, I was definitely pleasantly surprised. And someone told the story. So hey,
Yeah.
looking at you, other trophies, paddle wheel. Someone cared enough to give us some information on this. So
Not only told
I'm
the
glad.
story, but care to keep using it. Yes, yes.
So why don't we
Oh,
get to our
grabs my
rankings?
gears. Yeah. Okay. Looks pretty good. I mean, nice size bell. I like that they roll around with it. That's if I just keep it looks, it's good size. It's kind of handsome. It's kind of something about this bell's very endearing. Um and the ingenuity too to have as a cart that you go around on. Four on looks for me. I like that. UJ?
I'm gonna go at 4.5. So I like the uniqueness of, not that it's necessarily unique from a sense of being a victory bell, right? Like,
Right. Right.
but I do like that it's not only a functioning bell that's ingrained in tradition, but I do like that it has that cart. Like, I don't think
Yes.
there's any other
Yes.
drivable trophy or rideable trophy that we've
Rideable.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I dig that. And obviously I dig that they can, paint the school
Yes.
colors and make it unique to the winning school. So
Yes.
yeah, so it's going to be a 4.5 for me.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And for history, I'm gonna go 4.5 there. I really like that the thought process behind it, that it came up so long ago. They've continued to use it. They're like, hey, we need a mascot. Okay, we got a mascot. Now we need something for our biggest rival. And I love that it's such a big part, and it's continuing to develop. Right? You said in recent years they've started to actually paint it on the field, which is pretty cool. So we're continuing to get more layers of history to this trophy. Maybe they'll add a motor in the future and they will just
That'd be
ride around.
sick.
Who knows? But so yeah, 4.5 for me. That was very good. No theft, but pretty good. Pretty
Yeah, I
good.
mean that one would be like, that would require like a pickup truck. Like that would be a little bit. I guess not. I guess you could just ride it.
Oh no, shoot,
Couldn't
brother.
you couldn't
You just
steal it for very like far. Like
Oh, brother, you get an F-150, tie a rope to the hitch, or just hitch that thing up directly and take
get
off down Tobacco Road.
get a couple rushes and just have them pull
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. A couple pledges. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry, that's what I meant. Pledges.
It's all right.
Um,
You're not a fraternity guy. It's
I'm
okay.
not. So, yeah. So history for me, I'm gonna go with you a 4.5. I like the how old it is, that since they've had it, it's been an annual thing. Um, I guess the only thing I would have liked is maybe um a little bit more uniqueness to the rivalry, the schools, the state. I mean, I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe it is known
Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
railways, but
yeah.
maybe. But yeah, so 4.5.
All right, cool. The rivalry itself, I'm get 5. I mean, this Duke UNC, I get it's football, it's not basketball, but it still is, that their basketball rivalry is obviously one of the greatest, and so there's no love lost between these schools. So 5 for the rivalry.
Yeah, same. Like I said, just because we don't see it nationally in football doesn't mean that they don't hate each other's guts. And I have a hard time believing that you would not carry. I mean, obviously I read, right, especially when both teams were competitive, it was as heated as the basketball. And I think even if they aren't competitive, it's still another way to beat that other school, right? So
Mm-hmm.
definitely
Mm-hmm.
5.
And then for competitiveness, I'm gonna go 3. I mean, it's just Duke football just isn't that good. I know they're getting better and everything, but like it's just not it's not something that the fate of the ACC is coming down to. Traditionally UNC has had a better program too throughout the years. So I'm just going to give it like a 3. Now, I give it a 3 and not like a 2 or a 1, because it is a little closer than I expected. 64 to 40 to 4. When you're playing for over 100 years, like I did think that there would actually be a little bit more of a gap there. So I'm going to give it a 3.
Yeah. I'm gonna go maybe just a bit above that, a 3.5. Basically the same things you mentioned. I just think, yeah, more recent. It's nice to see that Duke has been a bit more competitive. It's kind of tough that then they lose their coach, who made them competitive in recent years. But yeah, I'll go a smidge above that.
Just a smidge above half a yard.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with and then overall tier. Um, yeah, I mean, I could be a little bit I could be a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? I could be a little bit more of like a stickler maybe and be like, I don't really think of this as a football rivalry, but like the numbers, this is why we do it the way we do it. The numbers all say what they say. So if this is a, believe it or not, top tier trophy. I think it's towards the lower end of the top tier, but it's a top tier trophy.
Yeah, that's where it is for me too.
Yeah.
I think the trophy itself is, again, that's kind of what has a heavier weight. And then you add something like that that's been played annually since the 20s. It's an in-state rivalry. It's a new, for us thus far, a new take on a bell,
Yeah.
which can be a very boring thing. As soon as I saw it, I went absolutely right. It
Yeah.
didn't go like, it's a bell.
Yeah.
So definitely top tier, but like you said, just on the over that cusp of mid tier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, is there anything you change? Because you did
Yeah.
technically leave the door open.
Yeah, yeah, the motor would be pretty dope. I mean, they have rideable coolers. Just make it like that with a little handle on
Yeah.
it and a little motor. That'd be cool. I'm trying to think if I would potentially like overhaul this. I can't, really think of anything that I would overhaul it to right now, though. Like there's nothing about the mascots that I think would play really well. Um, if I was on the board of alumni for the University of Indiana, it was their trophy. I would consider, let's just get a blue paint bucket from Sherwin-Williams and do that. But if I had their mindset, but no, I think that this is, other than adding a motor, which would be fun. No, I think this is pretty solid, man. There's nothing really popping out to me as like, okay, this needs a drastic change. The only thing I can think of that would actually be pretty cool, now that I'm talking about this a little bit more, um, if you got like an old, like, Tobacco Road, they used to roll those barrels of tobacco down them, right? I mean, those are big, big barrels, but like if you got like an old barrel of tobacco and like you painted that, one side UNC blue, one side Duke blue, like that could be cool, to pay homage to the whole Tobacco Road thing. But I would really like this. I don't think that barrel would be as cool as what we see right now at the Victory Bell, to be honest.
Yeah, I I would say I think the motor, well, and it doesn't have to be a crazy one, like you said, like a cooler motor, whatever's big enough to move the actual the bell. I think that would be cool. I had another idea, but like I like that it appears to still be the same ingenuity from the 48. And I would say it's actually pretty good ingenuity. You'd say, oh, well, they should change it, right? And it's like, no, they just fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't really. I was thinking maybe some sort of like making it look like a battering ram. Like I think that if you added a motor, you could make it look like a ram. You could maybe dress it up as a devil, but like that could get cheesy for something that is old.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where my thought was going. But I think just being able to have it motorized, I think would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do a Ram, that's like just UNC. So yeah, you'd have to
You'd have to have
like,
like a devil, You could make
yeah,
him
replace the ram
spooky.
head with the devil head or something.
Yeah,
Yeah. But to your point, yeah, it could be a little cheesy.
yeah.
So
All right, so this game is going to be played this week. It's in Durham, which is where Duke plays, if you guys were unaware. It's on at 4 p.m. and it's on ESPN. So the spread, as far as I believe it was ESPN, I just quickly looked there. It's probably not going to be too much different anywhere else, but it's Duke minus 2.5. I imagine there you might be able to find a 3, but I bet you most places are probably going to stay underneath that. So what are your thoughts on this?
I guess they're just giving them points because they're at home. Um,
How did we not see that? This is what we usually look at. Clearly, the Tar Heels had someone else in mind when they're getting
when they
their
were,
shit rammed in by
yeah,
the Dukes.
yeah, they're worried about the wrong Duke.
Yep.
Boy, I guess I'm inclined to take Duke and lay the points because of what happened. Um, to them against James Madison, but I think I'm gonna firmly label this as a stay away game.
Yeah.
But like I said, I guess I'm inclined to take the points just because Duke and the points because or take Duke and lay the points because um that's gonna be a hard image to get out of my head. Much like Bushy, I'm gonna be thinking about that UNC JMU game for a while. So
And just to give you guys, I guess usually I mentioned this. So UNC is 3-1 coming into this game with their loss at JMU last week. Duke is undefeated, but haven't really played anyone. The only Power Five team they've played is Northwestern, so that kind of tells you that. So yeah, I would lean Duke. They're at home. Um, that's it. I mean, I know North Carolina has an outstanding running back who will be likely, definitely a draft pick, likely a first or second round, or I guess probably second round, the way that running backs get drafted nowadays. But I think the home team. I think it's right. I wouldn't. I would stay away from this and just enjoy it. Because North Carolina is capable. But yeah, that's where I would lean the home team, but I wouldn't touch this with the 10-foot pole. I'd just watch it and enjoy it.
indeed.
So that's going to do it for us this week. Follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskies and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also join us for well, I haven't updated this. So you can follow us on our Pick'em Challenge. You are more than welcome to join. You're going to be 4 weeks behind, but hey, we have, I believe, 13 weeks.
You're not you're not mathematically eliminated yet, my friends.
No,
Yeah,
no, you're not.
13 weeks total. So
You
just go undefeated and win all your biscuits, and you're in great shape. So
yeah, and I'm pretty sure this is we're coming up very soon, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, where we're gonna get some Tuesday and Wednesday college games. So you're gonna have
some
even
action,
more
baby.
biscuits to choose from. So yeah. Join us next week though, as we talk about one of my all-time favorite trophies and all-time favorite rivalries, the megaphone.
Ooh.
For Mike, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough.
Cheers, boys.